from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to the warm-up race for this, the Season 2 finale of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship. Season 2 with the Kia Optimas, Round 6. The final round takes us to this legendary circuit, Laguna Seca. It's going to be an absolutely amazing race for all the guys right now. It's going to be a warm-up session today, so that the guys can get the eye in and really get ready to go absolutely flat out into the final race this 6th of September. That's tomorrow. 2100 hours of freeze practice to 2200 hours qualifying the race. That is 9 o'clock, that's when the servers start, and 10 o'clock is when the qualifying and the race starts. We're going to start our broadcast around 9:30, so do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact for more information. So we're just going to have a quick look at the sponsors. Well, we're going to have a quick look at the drivers. I do apologise, but before we head to the drivers, a quick word, shout out to our sponsors: Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our supporter for this weekend, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia. A very special thanks to all those guys and to all our supporters in the background, not only with SRE but with all of the guys that have helped us out. It's been a brilliant season so far, and it looks like it's going to be a very close season ending for this championship. Ilham Halabi is in the lead, 129 points, plays Jasrin Jali's 126. The Todak Motorsports man in first position, Jasrin Jali for Outhouse FCR Performance Team A in second. A mere 3 points separate them. It's going to be very close indeed, and don't forget, Dominic Ang is also very, very close behind with 110 points. It might be a bit more of a stretch, but anything can happen during the course of the final race tomorrow, so keep an eye out on Dominic Ang in Team URT Black. Ruben Wong is fourth for Team URT Pink. Mohamed Hafiz Kamarudin, that's Michael Hafiz to his fans, he's in fifth position for Todak Motorsports, followed by Nigel Chua for Outer House, Azmi Mazli for Padawan, Saiful Arifin for Todak, Hafizul Jai for Android King, and Eddie Adrian for Padawan. Thanks there to Surin Salvarajo and Taufik Tahir, two of the guys who have a lot of experience in sim racing, for liking the streams. Do leave a comment down below, like and subscribe to the stream, and do share it around with your friends and spread that sim racing around. But now we head over to the team standings. Todak Motorsports is in the lead, 182, plays 169. Outhouse FCR Performance Team A still have a chance to try and take back the title from Todak Motorsports, but it's going to be very, very difficult indeed. Team URT Pink is in third position with 139, followed by Team URT Black, Outer House FCR Performance Team B, Padawan SRCB, Android King, Todak SSAD, Todak Motorsports Asia, Dante's Todak Motorsports, and Padawan SRCA. And now we can announce the championship prizes, and boy do we have some very exciting prizes for the drivers and teams championship. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The first placed man at the end of the season, the drivers champion, will win a trophy, 300 ringgit in cash, a ZS LC1 pedal by Precision Sim Racing, very good set of pedals that is, along with 200 ringgit vouchers from Works Engineering and Android King. And second place will receive a trophy as well as 200 ringgit in cash, a mystery gift by Todak Motorsports, along with a 100 ringgit voucher from Works Engineering and Android King. In third place, a trophy along with 100 ringgit cash, Android box by Android King. That's going to be a very nice addition to their television sets for sure, as well as a 50 ringgit voucher each from Works Engineering and Android King. The team championship winner will receive 400 ringgit in cash plus 200 ringgit vouchers from both Works Engineering and Android King, while the rookie of the season is going to win a trophy, a wall clock, and vouchers, 50 ringgit vouchers from Works Engineering and Android King. It's absolutely going to be some spectacular spoils for the victors. Now we're about to head into what will be the practice session for this, the warm-up race, the final round. It's going to be very special indeed. The WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is the location for the AIMC Season 2 finale. Absolutely iconic racetrack in the Monterey countryside. Located in Monterey, California. It's a 3.6 kilometer long track, and some places to highlight is the Andretti hairpin, where we've seen a lot of late braking maneuvers going into there, as well as turn 11. That's the final corner, another popular place to try and make an overtaking maneuver. The braver drivers might even try to get a move in coming into the legendary corkscrew turn, and the hardest corner for me absolutely going to be the rainy curve. That corner tightens and opens up and varies in banking as well, so that's going to be a very tricky corner to get right, especially after just dropping 3 stories from the top of the corkscrew to the bottom in under 200 meters. And now we bring you live pictures from iRacing and the Laguna Seca circuit. And as you can see, the cars now are driving around. A report from testing early in the week state that the track might be a little bit slippery, so you might see some fantastic car control from the drivers out there. You can see the 2 Todak Motorsports cars in there. Actually, even from this height, you can see them slide around just ever so slightly, trying to get that car turned in. For those of you who've just joined us, my name is Max Palmer. We'll be joined in the virtual studio by our director Kara Alang, and we're going to have a very exciting race coming up ahead. That's the 986 car. I believe that is Ilham Halabi, currently heading up into the corkscrew, and you can really appreciate what a challenge this track is. The pictures almost don't do it justice as they drive down the hill. You can almost see it in that back shot there, but now coming through Wayne Rainey's curve, Wayne Rainey being a very successful motorcycle racer in MotoGP, very, very famous man indeed, and perhaps befitting of that corner being named after him. Now coming out of the final corner there, we will get the timing screens up as soon as we can.
Hey man, I'm just loading up back the UI.
SDK.
Yeah.
We will get the timing up. There we go. And now we can see that was in fact, that was in fact Ilham Halabi. I almost recognized the number there. But Jazrin Jali is the quickest man out on track, followed by Saiful Arifin, Shami Aizan, Nigel Chua, and Chok Fan Pang, who was actually the first to get into the 129 bracket. It's going to be a very, very fast qualifying session up ahead for all of these drivers here. Jazrin Jali is on pole position. He will be battling quite hard with Ilham Halabi in order to try and get as much points as possible in relation to his championship rival, and that's going to be a very key factor in the race to come. The championship tensions are building. It's going to be an absolutely spectacular race coming up. Not only this not only tonight in the warm-up race, but also in the main race itself. The championship race will be tomorrow, Sunday. We'll be going live at around 9:30, but for now we are 44 minutes into a 1-hour practice session, just enough time to see how these guys are getting on with their practice. Now, some of these drivers won't be going for the fastest lap. They'll be trying to do a long run to try and figure out their fuel strategies and their tyre wear, so they won't be focusing so much on how quick they are over a course of a single lap. But some of the drivers out there towards the end of the practice session will try and do some practice qualifying laps, and that's going to be very exciting indeed for this part of the racetrack. But you can see there Justin Jelly just exiting the Andretti hairpin, now coming through these series of left-handers that get quicker as you go along. Now this is really a place where you want to use the curbs, but you've got to be very wise, because beyond the curbs, unlike a Formula 1 track, there is just pure dirt right after the curbs there, so you've got to be very careful. You have to maximize your curb usage, but you can't go too far over the line, otherwise you will spin out. Now coming up into this second right-hander, the very quick kink onto the Rahal stretch. Up the hill there, you can feel the compression almost on the body of the driver before coming into the braking zone and into the corkscrew. Look at how steep the drop is from the highest point of the circuit down through the corkscrew, through the rainy curve, into the lowest part of the racetrack. That's roughly 3 to 4 stories in terms of total height, dropped from the very top of that section to the bottom, and all within the space of 3 corners. Very, very spectacular stuff indeed. Coming around that final hairpin, we're going to head up to the line. Now let's see if Josh Jali is able to improve on his lap time. And it looks like he isn't able to do so, but that 131 looks to me like it's a race pace run for Jasrin Jali. Meanwhile, Chok Fan Pang is doing very well for himself around this track. It looks to be that Chok Fan Pang might be very, very comfortable indeed in that car. Perhaps just about finally finding the rhythm and the right sort of pace to drive around this track and really get the hang of these Kia Optimas. 375 brake horsepower and about 400 Newton meters of torque, all going through the front wheels in a very, very long chassis, so it's going to be very challenging for the drivers to really push these cars hard and really try and maximize their vehicle's capability. Of course, these cars are running a fixed setup, as Muhammad Khalif is now climbing up into the corkscrew section for Android King. Be very careful. You've really got to rotate the car around there. You don't want to find yourself in any sort of understeer throughout this entire section. Right up to the edge of the curve there on the rainy curve. Down into turn 10, past the pits and into the final corner there. Again, braking points are critical on this track in order to try and get right. He's now at 8th position, doing very well for himself. A 130.142 makes him the fastest of the drivers in the 130s. Let's see what he's able to do in terms of lap time around that last lap. I think that may have been, yeah, that's a 136.8, so perhaps he had a mistake earlier on in the practice session rather. But yeah, these Kia Optimas were built for a series in America called Pirelli World Challenge, and as Mavinajit saying, it dives down the hill. These cars were built as endurance race cars. Of course, in our series we have artificially limited the fuel cells to half the size that they normally would be. So with these cars, the real challenge is going to be to try and really think very hard about the fuel strategy. It's a 45-minute race, and we know they cannot finish the race on a single tank of fuel, and they don't really want to try and finish the race on a set of tires if they can help it. So it's going to be very important to try and maximize stint length and really think very long and hard about that very important pit lane strategy. Lloyd Lachlan was the man that won our warm-up preview race that we hold after the post-race show, and he did quite well for himself, and he even threw us a few text messages during the course of the race, which was quite entertaining indeed. Of course, in sim racing, perhaps a little bit less risk of serious bodily injury in comparison to actually texting and driving in real life, which I'm sure Lloyd Loughlin will not do. Neither will most of the drivers out here. Fairly safe drivers, if I may say so myself. But in the sim racing world, they're going to be pushing as hard as possible. And number 25, Lloyd Loughlin, going to try and improve his lap time, and he does so with a 134.070. He'll be slowly but surely trying to gain as much time and position as possible throughout the course of this practice session. Shahril Norafuddin has been another driver that has improved quite a bit since his days in the Mazda MX-5, and he is he's been sort of carrying on his rivalry with the Todak Motorsports guys, and specifically with Michael Hafiz, right from the track into the sim racing world. So they've managed to drive for the first time in the Merdeka race that has just passed recently on the 30th of August, 31st of August being Independence Day here in Malaysia. The 30th of August was when we had our first race since the crisis at Sepang Circuit, MCS and MSF joint event. It was a very good thing for a lot of these drivers here, and like I've been saying for the last few rounds, I do have a bit of a theory that once these drivers start driving real world machinery, a lot of them will improve. If not all of them will improve in their sim racing by quite a bit. Michael Hafiz went quicker, and Afizul Jai went quicker after he finally got some drift practice in, and maybe Shahril Norafuddin and a few of the other drivers will also begin to up the pace. So it will be very interesting to see how Shahril does over the course of the race. A 132.622 was his previous lap time, and can I just say, from first to 8th positions, all covered within a second. 129.2 for Joshua Jali in first position, and Teku Ezan is there with a 129.9 down in 8th, and from then on it's 130s from position 9 all the way down to position 19. So 10 drivers within a second of each other, so that's going to be a very, very close race indeed. The top 22 drivers covered within 3 seconds. It's going to be a very, very exciting race to watch indeed. ZH has liked the stream, as well as Isaac Dali. Thanks a lot for your support, guys. It's going to be an absolutely mega race tonight, even though it is a warm-up session as we ride on board with Afiq Fadlan. It's going to be very exciting to watch indeed. Now, the key thing about this track is that a lot of the drivers were saying throughout the course of the week that the track is a little bit slipperier. They have sort of rejigged the track just a little bit to sort of reflect changes that have been made, as Azli there has found out, luckily managing to keep the car out of the barriers there. And yeah, it's going to be very, very challenging to try and keep the cars on the straight and narrows. Surin Selvaraju is the new driver for Club Automobilista Hermanos Veloces. He joined, I believe, in round 4 or round 5, I'm not too sure, but he was a mid-season addition to the Hermanos Veloces team, headed up by Javier Alvarez and featuring our very own post-race analyst Kelvin T. So I'm pretty sure Kelvin will have quite a lot of fun in dissecting tomorrow's race after the race has ended. And we're going to be definitely looking forward to his views throughout the course of the post-race show after this, the final round of the AIMC Season 2. that's going to be 6 minutes to go before the end of the practice session there. And it looks like we have 25 drivers up on my timing screen. I'm just going to double check that. 26. There's 26 drivers who have set a lap time and 29 drivers who have entered the session. So it's going to be quite a lot of drivers entering this race, or this warm-up race. So that, I guess, is going to bode quite well for the championship race to come. It's going to be very, very difficult to handle the grid sizes that we normally have around this racetrack. It's only 3.6 kilometers long, and it can get very narrow in certain places, so it's going to be a very, very challenging track to try and get right, especially if you're stuck in the midfield. So qualifying, I believe, is going to be very, very critical in the outcome of the race. Surin Savarejo there in 20th position. He's managed a 132.7. I believe he's going to be on a he's doing a long run, a stint simulation, if you will. Freddie Ang, he has just completed another outlap. He's down there in 141.9, but trust me, he will improve before the end of the practice session, that is for sure. He'll be going straight out there for a qualifying style run in preparation for the qualifying session coming up ahead. But meanwhile, Saifa Arifin still lapping in the 129s. Quite a few have been lapping consistently in the 149 range, and it's going to be very interesting indeed to see how those guys handle the long-term, the later stages of their stint when the tyres begin to wear out, because it's a lot harder to try and keep the tyres alive when the car's sliding around a lot. When you're trying to save tyres and save fuel, you really want a very grippy track, and this isn't really a very grippy track indeed. You can see that iRacing has sort of simulated the dust and the build-up that sort of affects this circuit. Laguna Seca tends to have quite a bit of a dirt build-up because it has dirt runoffs, and it's generally in a very temperate, sort of almost desert region of California. You're going to get a lot of sand that blows from the hills and the dunes around the circuit, and from the sand traps. They don't have gravel traps here, they have sand traps for Laguna Seca, so a lot of the sand and a lot of the debris from the side of the track tends to get blown onto the racing surface, so it's going to be very difficult indeed to try and manage and maintain tyre wear and fuel consumption when the car is going to be sliding around all around you. Just notice there, Freddie Lloyd has managed to get himself up into 9th position, so he's the quickest person in the 130s brackets, but that's Freddie Ang's lap time, a 129.933. He makes it 9 drivers in the 129 bracket. This is definitely going to be very, very interesting indeed when it comes to the race. From where I'm standing, it looks like the top 5 or top 6 drivers could be in with a chance of winning the race if this pace holds true. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. Shami Azri is in 12th position. The Outer House FCR team just got it wrong. He did very well for himself there to try and stop the car before it ran off the road on the other side there at the corkscrew section, but through that section there, if you get the braking wrong, or heaven forbid you manage to get the car into the sand trap on the right hand side, that could be a very, very big accident. Could even be a race ending crash. Do apologize there. Fortunately, when I stuck my phone on charge there, it for some reason started ringing. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see these guys going through there. I think, yeah, the top 5 or 6 drivers could be in with a chance of doing very well. It's going to be a very heated battle for the podium positions, judging by these practice times. Now we're looking at the championship leader Ilham Halabi complete a lap. He's all the way down in 19th position. So that seems to me like, with a man of his experience, he's trying to go out there and do as many laps as he can. He would be on an endurance run. He's managed a 1:30.901 session. That might, or 1:30.901 time, I do apologize. So that could mean that he's doing an enduro run. He would want to try and do a quick lap later on, but it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Ruben Wong, there, he has yet to set a lap time. He'll have just enough time to try and finish this lap, but pretty soon we're going to go into qualifying. Special thanks to Muhammad Azam, Muhammad Azni, and Muhammad Firdaus Muhammad Isa for liking the stream, and thanks to Muhammad Azam for sharing the stream as well and spreading that sim racing love around. For those of you who have just joined us, do leave a like on the stream and drop us a comment down below. You'll often see some of the drivers who are unable to participate in the warm-up race join them in the chat session below there. But we're going to take a quick break as qualifying fires up. We'll be back very, very shortly, so do stay tuned. And we're back just in time to see one of the Rab Pro Drag cars come a bit of a cropper there on one of the sand dunes there. So, for those of you who have just joined us, you're tuned in to the warm-up race for round 6, the final round of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 2 with these Kia Optimas held here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca circuit. Freddie Ang now diving through the hills right now. Quite a few of the drivers have now started their first qualifying laps, and it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to be the quickest driver out there. Freddie Ang has had 2 purple sectors. It looks like it's going to be 3. He might be the fastest man out on track at the moment. So let's have a look and see what his lap time could be like. 1:29.572 for Tungo Jan Lei. It looks like Freddie Ang had to slow down a little bit there. But he still managed a 1:29.204. Now, will we see a 1:28 lap time? Could we see a lap time in the 1 minute 28 second range? That looks like it's absolutely possible But we've already had 3 drivers in the 129. Looks like Tycho Ershad is going to be the 4th person in that hollowed round. 129 is going to be very, very fast around here. Very difficult to try and achieve that sort of lap time. But it looks like Saiful Arifin has managed to get up to 129.190. So that's really flying for Saiful Arifin there, who's really pushing that Todak Motorsports machine quite hard indeed. Majid Hafiz managing to complete a lap there. Afiq Fadlan manages a 130.187. Sharon Norfolin a 131.281. Chok Van Pang has managed to start a lap, which leaves Jasmine Jali, who's out on track now, pushing very hard indeed to try and complete this lap. Tawfiq Tahir has managed to improve his lap time, but unfortunately it's a 131.312. So he's going to have to work just a little bit harder to try and get that car up the field. Deku Janle unable to improve on his lap. Oh, he has in fact improved on his lap time there, a 129.425 for Deku Janle. That brings him quite a ways up the field indeed. So 5 minutes have gone in this 15-minute qualifying session. Jaswin Jali is on provisional pole position. He has managed a 128.891. He's the first man in the 128s. It's going to be an absolute ask for a lot of the drivers to try and gain that much speed through the course here. Saiful Arifin also has managed a 128, but he's managed a 128.9, so that's going to be just to try and find that final 100th of a second. 128.891 from Jaswin Jali, 128.902 for Saiful Arifin. It looks like it's going to be very close between first and second places here. And now with almost 6 minutes gone, let's just have a quick look at the top 10 as it stands. Jaswin Jali is in first position, 128.891 plays. Saiful Arifin, 128.902. Freddie Ang is in third position, and the first driver at the 129s, 129.204. Nigel Chua is in fourth, followed by Tuku Jan, Tuku Ershad, Tuku Ezan, Afiq Fadlan, Faiz, Pang, Mohammed, Cheryl, Michael, and Lloyd Lachlan all the way down in 14th position. And it looks like it's going to be a very, very close fight at the top here. Shami Aizan was very quick around here. Khalif should be coming up to the end of his lap. Perhaps a little bit aggressive going into that final corner there, but you do have to push these cars quite hard in order to try and make up some position. But looks like Muhammad Khalif has managed a lap time of 130.341. Matthew Graham, meanwhile, he is on his way up to the start-finish line. Let's see what lap time he is able to go out. It's going to be didn't quite catch that lap time, unfortunately, but there we have it. He'll be pushing, I'm sure, to try and improve on his lap time. He's still outside the top 10 positions. Michael Hafiz is now in 14th place. Let's see if he's able to improve his lap time. And even though he's gone quicker in the middle sector, he's lost a bit of time at the end there, so he still maintains a 130.162 lap. Meanwhile, Tawfiq Tahir, we're going to watch him coming up across the line there. We're halfway through the session right now. It's starting to build up as the drivers begin to push as hard as they can around this track. It's single car qualifying, so they don't have to deal with the traffic throughout the course of the qualifying sessions. We can have nice short qualifying sessions. But Tawfiq Tahir there, he's managed to cross the line with a 131.058. So a lot of the drivers now are on a warm-up or cool-down lap at the moment. Again, at the 8-minute mark, it's still Jaswin Jali in first, Saiful Arifin in second, but just 100th of a second, less than 100th of a second between the two drivers up in front. And Shami Aizan is not that far away in third position. But the question remains, where is Jaswin's rival? Matthew Graham goes across the line. Let's see if he's able to improve. Yes, he goes 131.784. So that moves him up into 21st position. He's going to want to try and push that car just a little bit harder in order to get into the 130s, but we know he's able to do that. Cho Fan Pang is in the top 10 right now, 129.809. Let's see if he's able to improve. He has managed to improve over the first 3 sectors on our 5-sector lap on our timing screens there. Let's see what lap time he's able to pull off. He managed to move up 1 place on his teammate with a 129.698. Taufik Tahir comes around the final corner. Let's see if he's able to improve on his lap time. Coming up across the line there, and it looks like, yes, he has managed to move up from 20th to 18th place with a 130.568. And where is Ilham Halabi still in all of this battling? Let's see what he's able to do in terms of lap time. And it looks like he may not have set a lap time there. Could be because he ran across the road, or ran off the road. There is qualifying scrutiny turned on. That basically means there's going to be a penalty or a removal of lap time for driving off the road here. So you really do have to make sure you get that lap time, that lap down right, and you make sure you do it safely in order to be able to get that lap in. 10 minutes have passed, 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session, and Ruben Wong there has gone in with a 129.838. Let's see what Malvinajit Singh, car number 92 for the Grab Pro Drag team. We'll watch him through the final corners there. He's really pushing the car quite hard in order to try and get the pace out of the car there. Lots of curve on the inside. You're going to see a lot of driving style, different driving techniques over the final corner there. As you come across the line, and let's see what he is able to do. He has improved his lap time, but that puts him up into 18th position with 130.298. A lot of drivers in the 130s and lower. It's looking like it's going to be a very, very tight race indeed. Looks like Surin Selvaraja has indeed pulled off. He was down quite a ways down there in 31st place. Another driver who is perhaps just a little bit lower down than he would normally be comfortable with. The Android King Todak Motorsports car of Jazri Junos is now climbing up the hill. Let's see how he tackles this legendary downhill section known as the corkscrew. You brake, you aim the car directly at the apex of the first part, you turn the car around, and you nail the throttle as soon as you reach the second apex to try and take advantage of the compression to try and give yourself just a little bit of extra traction coming out of the corner there. It looks like he was not able to improve on his first few sectors. Let's see if he's managed to make it up at the end of this lap. Be pushing very hard to try and get any sort of improvement, but it looks like Jazri Junos is unable to do so. He's just a few seconds off his personal best. Shami Azri is pushing quite hard to try and improve his position. Let's see where he goes. He goes into 8th place. 129.5 is a very good lap time for Shami Azri, but it just looks like the front of the field has really set the track alight. Now a 129.833, that means Tuguezan has not been able to improve on his lap time. 12 minutes have passed to qualifying out of 15. That's 3 minutes to go. Perhaps a chance for 1, maybe 2 laps if they have the time for it. Farouz there. Farouz Fazil is going to go across the line. He's managed only a 136.3. That puts him in last. He's going to want to try and push as hard as he can in order to raise himself up the leaderboard. But this is coming up to basically the last chance for a lot of these drivers. Is it coming up into this final warm-up?
Azril just gave up there.
A lot of the drivers are stopping right now because they're trying to, if they're not on a good lap time, they're going to try and abort it. If they are on a good lap time, they're going to try and complete the course.
They only have 4 tries for getting the best lap time.
Absolutely. So they only have 4 laps. So they have 4 timed laps to do this in. So if they're not sure about the qualifying attempt, they're going to basically abort the qualifying attempt and try again. The because you can start as many laps as you want, but you can only finish 4 laps that count. Any more laps that you do after that point will not count, and it really is a case of trying to push as hard as possible. Ilham Labi is a man who is really desperate for a good lap time there. So is this man, Zainul Hazim. A couple of the drivers there still needing to do a lap time.
They just entered the server. Zainul Hazim, James Russell.
So quite a few drivers have just entered the server, and it looks like they may have entered just a little bit too late, 14 minutes out of 15 minutes. It looks like they might not be able to try and go for another lap. But let's see if there's any other drivers out there on circuit. It looks like most of the drivers have indeed.
They're in the pits all.
Yeah, most of them. Ruben Wong has managed to go up to 129.8, but apart from that, Ashwin Nasli is the only man out on track who's really got a chance of improving his lap time. He did go slow in the first sector, but he went quicker than his previous time in the second sector. It's a bit of an up and down lap from him right now, but it looks like, judging by the stopwatch at the bottom left-hand corner there, he might not be able to improve, and he isn't able to try and get to the start-finish line in order to start a lap. So it looks like that's going to be it for the qualifying session, and that's going to be quite difficult for some of the drivers further behind. It's a very narrow track. You can overtake here, but it's going to be very difficult with all that traffic. 31 cars I saw there briefly, and as the grid begins to form behind the official Porsche 911 car, pace car, let's have a quick look at the leaderboard. You can see a lot of URT cars there in a row. But let's have a quick look at the grid. Jazrin Jali has managed to get pole position for Outhouse FCR Performance. That's going to be a real morale boost for him coming into the final round. Saif Arifin is in second place, Sami Aizan in third, followed by Tunku Irshad, Freddie Ang, Nigel Chua, Tunku Jan Lei, Shami Azri, Chok Fung Pang, and Tunku Ezan Lei in 10th place, with Afiq Fadlan in 11th and Ruben Wong in 12th. In 30th place, Malvinderjit Singh. It's followed by Lloyd Lachlan, Faiz Aslan, Michael Hafiz down in 16th, Mohammed Mohamed in 17th, followed by Sharil Norafuddin, Azam Azni, Muhammad Khalif, Tawfiq Tahir, Surin Silvaraju, Nazmi Mazni, and Tamizi Yusuf. And just further there, we see some of the drivers who were unable to set a lap time. Matthew Graham didn't quite get around to try and finish that lap. Jasper Junos, Fadzil didn't quite do it, and Zainul Hazim and James Russell unfortunately just joined the server a little bit too late. But Ilham Halabi going to have a real challenge on his hands if he's going to try and go from that position up to the front of the pack. Perhaps yet another last to first challenge on his hands. Meanwhile, Jazrin Jali leads the field. The Porsche 911 would have gone into the pits, and now Jazrin Jali has control of the field. Let's see how these guys get on with the start of the race. The lights are on. When they're off, it's go. It's going to be a green flag for Jazrin Jali, who's managed to get quite a bit of a gap up into the lead of the race. Meanwhile, the two cars side by side there, that's the Green Works Engineering car, and there's been an accident. There's been an accident further on behind, coming into the first corner there, but there's quite a lot of cars going 2 wide or 3 wide through the course of that first hairpin. But that looks like Tuku Irshad, who's knocked himself out of the running at the moment, and another driver as well. But looking from Tuku Janlei's position there, there's 4, 5 URT cars in a row there. That's Tuku Jan, Freddie in 4th, Freddie Ang in 5th, Pang in 6th, Ezan in 7th. So that's going to be 4 cars there. You're really going to try and push as hard as they can, and perhaps they might be trying a little bit of team tactics this tonight, just to try and see if they can move up the field almost in a military style column, as opposed to just cars dotted around all over the place. But Jazrin Jalil has managed to pull off a 1.2 second lead going through the rainy curves. Shami Azam for the Ride Pro Drag team is in second place, and Saif Arifin running his special warm-up race livery for sponsor Works Engineering. He is in 3rd place. Nice to see he's wrapping his test livery there. But right behind Cypher Arifin, there's a whole line of cars from the URT stables there. Cypher Arifin is battling with Tukujan and Freddy Ang behind him. Up ahead, he is still quite close to Shame Aizan as well, so this could really go either way. The drivers are still fairly close to each other, and the only real driver with any sort of gaps, Chok Van Pang, Shami Azri and James Russell. So it's going to be very difficult for those 3 guys to try and hang on to their respective groups. But Jasmine Jali has the barest hint of a lead coming into lap 2 of the race. It's going to be very spectacular indeed, looking at these guys pounding out around this circle. That was a very exciting start there. Lloyd Lachlan is moving and shaking, trying to push his way up through the leaderboard there. It looks like as Shami Azri has managed to get past Ruben Wong, it's going to be very interesting to see if Lloyd Lachlan will try and gain some positions going up through, of course, all the race there. Ruben Wong there just getting a little bit slower through the fast sweeping corners, like graded curve there, but it looks like the traction isn't quite there for Lloyd Lachlan. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the replay of this whole group of cars coming into the corkscrew there, and it looks like Matthew Graham has gone off the road, or one of the cars there has gone off the road.
Yeah, Matthew.
So that looks like it's going to be a very hard end for Matthew Graham there. There was a car in the background as well who was impaled on the wall. So I'm not too sure who that was. And that was James, who has gone straight on at the corkscrew. That's not going to be very good for his chances. He's going to have quite a lot of repairs on his car there. It looks like he may have either misjudged the braking or had some sort of a vehicle failure at the top of the hill, which is a very scary place to try and correct any sort of issues at the top of the hill there. You really only have one line going through the corkscrew curve there. Meanwhile, coming back to the scene of the accident, Freddie Ang. We're riding on board with Freddie Ang right now, and he's chasing Tinku Jan, and he's going to try and look on the inside. A very risky maneuver to try and pull, even just to try and have a look at that corkscrew chicane there. It's going to be very difficult for Freddie to try and make anything happen there, but it looks like the battle here for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th is really hotting up quite a bit. And look at that, a whole row of URT cars there trying to chase up. It's almost like they're driving in formation. These guys are definitely trying to improve their team driving strategies, but in the meantime, Saiful Arifin is still there in 3rd position. Shami Aizan is in 2nd place, and Jaswin Jali is leading the race, and he's managed to extend his gap to 1.9 seconds. So Jaswin definitely having the advantage right now, and now it really is a case of whether these guys can either work together to try and catch Jaswin or begin battling with each other. And when they start to battle with each other, they're not taking the perfect racing line through the corners. They're not pushing the cars as hard through the corners as they would be if they're all alone, so they might begin to lose a bit of pace there. Nigel Chua now is still in a very tight battle there with Nazmi. Let's see how this goes, and Nigel Chua manages to go around the outside, coming up through that left hand before the bridge. But it looks like Nigel Chua managing to get that move done quite nice and neatly indeed. Around 6 minutes have passed in the race there. We're on lap 4, so that's going to be
mid-pack.
Yep.
7 cars, I think.
Yep, and this is, like I say, the classic mid-pack battle. A lot of cars going up and down the field there. It's going to be very interesting to see who can pull the moves off, but it's almost become a tradition in AIMC racing that the midfield battle begins to develop, and it begins to get very exciting indeed. We've seen everything from crashes to bashes to very exciting overtaking indeed in the mid-pack. Very high risk to run in that in that mid-pack, but definitely looks like it could be worthwhile for those guys there. Lloyd Lachlan is in 9th position, going up through the leaderboard there, and it looks like he is locked behind Ruben Wong up there in 8th, and he's going to try and get as close as he can to Ruben Wong. He definitely doesn't want to be the man that has to deal with that chasing pack of cars behind him. He'd much rather Ruben Wong take that honour for him, and he'd much rather be at the head of this two-car battle trying to pull away, I'm sure. Ruben Wong has managed to climb up 4 places, so he did have a very good start along with one of the other guys there, but it looks like Lloyd Lachlan very close to the back of Ruben. Looks like he almost had the ability to try and go for an overtaking manoeuvre there. Again, Lloyd just poking his car into the inside of the turn there just a little bit, just to try and let Ruben Wong know that yes, I'm here and I'm able to overtake you. And it just looks like it's a matter of time before Lloyd goes for that overtaking manoeuvre. Meanwhile, this whole row of URT cars there trying to chase the top 3. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 cars under the bridge, and I believe that was a 5th one as well. So that was Jezrin Jelly is now in the lead, followed by Shami Aizan and Saifur Arifin, and behind the top 3 are the URT drivers of Tunku Jamle, Freddie Young, Chok Feng Pang, Tunku Ezan, and Ruben Wong. So I count 5 cars there, all from the same stable, if not necessarily the same team. Of course, each team has a minimum of 2 drivers and a maximum of 3. So some of these drivers are from Team URT Black, Team URT Pink, and Team URT Black Pink. So that's going to be very interesting for these guys to see if they can work together, even though they are technically in different teams. Could they work together as one sort of cohesive unit at this point? It's a very interesting strategy, and it could well work out. And definitely not something that you would be able to plan, because the qualifying session is very difficult to predict here at Laguna Seca, but it did look like those guys managed to pull it off, and they managed to be close enough together at the start of the race in order to begin driving together there. Saifur Arifin is now starting to put some pressure on Shami Aizan. He thinks obviously that he can probably do a better job of trying to chase down Jezrin Jelly. Again, Saifur Arifin just taking a look at the inside of that rare Pro Drag machine, but thinks better of it. Shami Aizan get the car a little bit sideways on the curb there, and you can see that he is definitely pushing the car just a little bit harder than Saifur Arifin is. Saifur has a little bit of a smoother line through a lot of corners there. Shami a little bit more aggressive. You can see he likes to take a wider line, likes to square off corner in these touring cars there. Saifur Arifin taking a more classical, smoother line through the corners, and this looks like he might be able to try and do something about them. But he has to keep an eye out on the driver behind him, because that is Tunku Jamle, a very experienced racing driver, not only doing quite well in sim racing, but he is, of course, the Prince of Drift and a very experienced touring car racer to boot. So it looks like Tunku Jam will be putting that man ahead, Saifur Arifin, under a lot of pressure. Shami Aizan still trying to pull away, still trying to do anything he can to try and keep at the head of this queue, but it looks like Saifur Arifin might begin to size up a move down here. In fact, he's going to the inside early, perhaps that's trying to provoke Shami into defending. Shami doesn't fall for it, and it looks like Shami Aizan still manages to maintain 2nd position with Saifur Arifin up in 3rd.
Let's go back to the mid-pack.
So you can see from Faiz Aslan's point of view, and they're all following Afik Fadlan there, and this four-way battle could be very interesting indeed. Faizastan going a little bit wide there, and that might bring the two Todak Motorsports cars behind him into the fray. That could be a battle between 6 cars. So that's 6 cars, all with a chance of taking positions from one another in the classic midfield battle that we've come to sort of know and love in AIMC. That's where some of the best racing in the series happens, and it looks like it's going to be a very interesting race indeed. As Aslan, he looks like he's trying to catch up with the car up ahead. That's Shami Azri in the in the Outhouse FCR machine, and Mavinajit in the Rab car is up ahead. So drivers from 3 different teams there, and it looks like all 3 drivers will be pushing their cars right to the limit to try and get that position. Of course, a top 10 place is going to be very useful for the teams involved as well as the drivers, because that's when our scoring system really takes off. So it's 30 points for a win, and the points go down by 2 for the first 6 drivers, and then they go down by 1 all the way down to the bottom rung. But you definitely want to be in the top 10, because that's where the big points are, and that's really going to help the team's championship as well, which as we saw there is going to be a very interesting race, very interesting battle indeed. Chok Fan Pang is at the end of this train, or he's in the middle of the train, I do apologize. Down there, he is in 6th place. He's got 2 URT cars ahead of him and 2 URT cars behind him, although they're beginning to spread out just a little bit more there, and it looks like Freddie Ang is going past Tukujan. That looks like a deliberate move. Perhaps Tukujan feels that Freddie Ang will be able to sort of push the team just a little bit harder to try. Perhaps Freddie has a little bit more pace in that car in order to try and catch the cars up ahead. But it looks like the the 2nd to 3rd drivers of Sami Aizan and Saifur Arifin have managed to pull a little bit of a gap to these 3 URT drivers. Freddie, Jan and Pang have dropped back just a little bit, and Tuku Ezan and Ruben have also dropped back by quite a bit there. So they're breaking off into 2 little battle packs, 4th, 5th and 6th quite close to each other, and the 7th, 8th and 9th also quite close to each other. Saifur Arifin still in 3rd position, and still desperate to try and overtake Sami Aizan, who incidentally had a fantastic start to the race, and really managing to get one over on Saifur coming down into the first corner there. But it looks like Saifur Arifin might have the pace. He's currently lapping in the 1:31 range, 1 minute 31 range, and it looks like it might be Saifur Arifin might have the slight pace advantage on Sami Aizan. But where Saifur is sort of struggling a little bit through here is coming out of that corner, up Rahal Straight and into the corkscrew section there. Perhaps Sami Aizan's more aggressive approach to the corkscrew is paying a little bit of dividends. You can see the car's Constantina up, but then Sami Aizan just seems to be able to take that a little bit faster through Rainy Curve, and generally have just a little bit more traction at the bottom of the hill. 15 minutes have passed in this 45 minutes race. That's half an hour left to go, and a lot of the drivers are still very, very close to each other indeed. It looks like it's going to be a very entertaining race indeed. Afik Fadlan has joined this battle between Ruben Wong and Lloyd Lachlan, and looks like these drivers have also caught up to Tinku Ezan, who's dropped off the pace just ever so slightly, perhaps trying to nurse the tyres just a little bit throughout the course of the race. Now this is where we're going to start thinking of the pit lane strategy. If they're going to do a 2-stopper, they're going to have to start stopping within the next few minutes, at least to the 15-minute or 16-minute point. So this is roughly around the time you expect the guys on the 2-stop strategy to pit. But a lot of these drivers will also be on a 1-stop strategy, and the pit window for that will open at around the 22-minute mark, 22 to 24-minute mark, and it's going to be very interesting to see if anybody takes that shorter stint two-stop strategy and just tries to push as hard as possible. But Lloyd Lachlan, he's managed to come up 5 places since the start, right up into that top 10 positions. And now when you are in the top 10, every single position gained means quite a few more points in the championship race this Sunday. So everybody wants to be in that top 10 position. And this warm-up race is a really good practice to try and get into the point scoring positions. Of course, for the warm-up race, that's the race you're watching right now, there's only going to be participation points, which is, I believe, 2 points for this round.
No, 1 point.
1 point for this round. For each driver that manages to finish the race without a disqualification. And that will be carried on into the final race, which is tomorrow, and that will give out the big points, 30 points to the winners, and there'll be points all the way down to the final lower places. So, meanwhile, Lloyd Lachlan still pushing very hard indeed to try and gain any sort of advantage, any sort of position to the car up ahead, but right now it's almost a bit of a stalemate right now. Everyone's deciding to go into the pits. It looks like everybody is doing relatively decent tyres. Meanwhile, Freddie Ang has managed to, in fact, bridge the gap between the fading URT train and this battle up ahead for 2nd and 3rd place. It's now a battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. Freddie Ang really pushing that Kia Optima as hard as it'll go. Going very hard, very fast through the rainy turn there. Again, very, very tricky because it tightens up a little bit at the end and the bank angle of the corner changes as well. So the banking changes, the angle of the corner changes, everything changes as well. Very close on the braking there between Freddie Ang and Saiful Arifin, and it looks like Freddie might be thinking of making an overtaking maneuver in the next couple of laps. He definitely has the braking capacity far more than Saiful Arifin does. Saiful Arifin will really want to try and make an overtaking move on Summit Eyes and try and keep a car between himself and that attacking Freddie Ang. Of course, Freddie Ang will not only be trying to get in front of these drivers, but they'll also try and drag the rest of the URT group up with him if he can. So there's a lot of tactical and strategic thinking going on with the URT guys right now. But for Saiful Arifin and Samir Hazan, I'm pretty sure their only 2 concerns is to try and one-up each other and try and make sure they are leading the battle for 2nd and 3rd, and of course to try and catch the race leader. Coming up to the 20-minute mark with 25 minutes to go, Jajun Jali is in 1st position, Samir 2nd and Saiful Arifin in 3rd, followed by Freddie Ang in 4th, Tukuk Jan in 5th, followed by Chok Feng Pang, Teguezan, Ruben, Wong, Lloyd Lachlan and Afiq Fadlan. Ilham Hlabi, meanwhile, has moved up 30 places. He was unable to qualify and joined the server quite late, which meant he started very close to the back of the field, but now he's gained 13 positions and has gone up into 16th place, so he's really almost gone halfway up the leaderboard there. Absolutely spectacular driving there from Ilham Hlabi to try and gain as many positions as he can. Now looking to size up an overtaking maneuver with Azam up ahead and Nazmi further up ahead still. Let's see if these Padawan guys can offer any challenge to the current championship leader Ilham. Pushing as hard as they can. They're definitely trying to push as hard, try and keep Ilham Hlabi behind them and score a little bit of glory for themselves in this warm-up race as well. Nazmi Bazli and Azam there really pushing quite hard. You can see the brake discs glowing. iRacing doing a very good job with the details on these cars there. Really does do them justice. Nazmi Bazli in 14th place. He has a little bit of damage to the front of the car there, but he has managed to go up 9 places, so it looks like there is quite a bit of pace still in that Kia. It looks like Ilham Hlabi might just be beginning to size up his next overtaking maneuver. Ooh, big slide from Azam there. That he did very well for himself to try and catch that slide. And now coming up to the top of the hill, it looks like Nasby going very deep into the corner there and having to correct the car. And Azam managing just about to hold on to the car there, but that means Ilham Labi, who managed to take that that downhill section quite nicely, has managed to really get through. That's James Russell, who's managed to make an overtaking maneuver. He is trying hard to get back onto the lead lap, but perhaps Ilham wisely deciding to go right ahead. 22 minutes have passed, and that is pretty much the midpoint of the race there. And as we come to the midpoint of the race, Michael Hafiz and Muhammad Mohammed have gone into the pits. Cars in 18th and 19th position right now at the moment, although they will drop down quite a bit. Tarmizi has also gone into the pits as well. So I think we're going to start to see a lot of the drivers begin their pit stops. And this is going to be very interesting indeed to see how long the leaders can stay out for, because the longer you can stay out for your first stint in a one-stop race, the better your chances are for the second stint.
We will see JJ Strategy today.
Well, JJ there, Justin Jolly, JJ as he's known, and he's very well known for being able to calculate strategies whilst pushing the car very, very hard indeed. So perhaps we might see him try and pull off a very special strategy during the course of this race. But it looks to me like he's definitely not stopping early. He might try and go as long as possible up the front. There's a lot of cars that have gone into the pits there following Sami Aizan. Freddie Ang is in the pits, Tuku Jan is in the pits, Tuku Ezan is in the pits, Lloyd Laughlin's in the pits, Ruben Wong is in the pits, and Afiq is also in the pits with Faiz, Nazmi, Azam and Taufik. So that is virtually the entirety of the midfield pack there. There's almost half the grid in the pits right now, but it looks like Ilham Labi has managed to go past all of them and go right the way up into 4th position. That's 25 places gained for Ilham Labi. Let's see if he's able to do anything in terms of lap times to try and put as much gap as possible on the track and perhaps push that car for as long as possible in order to try and maintain that track position. But that was very, very good from Ilham there. But Jasmine Jali is still in the lead. Looks like Surun Selvaraju has just gone to the pits there. I can assure you Jasmine is still in the lead with Saiful Arifin in 2nd place, Chofan Pang in 3rd, with Ilham Labi in 4th position. And it looks like Jasmine's coming into the pits. He's managed to extend his first stint by a couple of laps there, and it looks like Saiful has also responded. Chofan Pang decides to go, keep going, so he will take over the lead of the race. As they go past the pits there, you can see all these cars really pull into and pull out of the pit box, and Pang is now the leader of the race, car number 24. He's gone up 8 positions to get into the lead of the race there, and he's going to try and hold on to that for as long as possible before he has to pit very, very shortly. Ilham Labi has now begun to go past a few more drivers and move up into 2nd position. So these two drivers, Chofan Pang and Ilham Labi, they might drop down quite a few places there, but the main trick here, I do apologise, that's James Russell ahead of Ilham Labi, but nevertheless for James Russell, he will want to try and stay out for as long as possible as well. But for Chofan Pang, Ilham Labi and Shami Azri as well, they want to try and stay out for as long as possible. Their hand has basically been forced. They have track position, but they're in this position where they have to try and extend the lead with their worn out tyres and their lack of fuel. So let's see if any of those drivers can perhaps do a little bit of strategic magic. But Jasrin Jali has managed to come across as the best of the drivers who have pitted, so that looks to me like the and it looks like Chok Fong Pang has decided to go into the pits. So Pang decides to pit. Let's see where Ilham Halabi comes in. Will he be able to stretch it for another lap? I'm too sure if he's able to do so. Let's see if he decides to dive into the pits. Yes, he does. Throwing James Russell into the pits. And that is Ilham Halabi, who won't take the race lead. And Pang still holds it. Shami Azri is in third position. I believe he hasn't stopped yet. So Shami Azri takes over the mantle for unconventional pit strategy, but it looks like he's saved quite enough fuel and he might even go for another lap. But this has huge consequences, not only during this portion of the race, because he will lose quite a lot of positions there. It's only himself, Nigel Chua and Paris Fadsil that have not yet stopped of all the drivers in the top 25. So Shami Azri really pushing his strategy to the limit, but if he can pull this strategy off, he'll be able to get out with very fresh tyres and just enough fuel to try and stretch all the way to the end of the race there. So very interesting to see if he can maximize his first stint in terms of duration.
Quite astounding, almost half an hour on his first time.
Absolutely.
But he's running 135.
Yeah, he's going quite well for himself, and he has a 7-second gap to Jaswin Jali. So perhaps Shami Azri is trying this very, very difficult strategy, and now he finally goes into the pits, 2 minutes shy of a half-hour stint, which in a 45-minute race is quite amazing indeed. But would you look at that? Jaswin Jali has managed to keep himself in the lead of the race, and he's not only in the lead of the race, he is, as we see the cars go across the pit there, as soon as Saifur Rahim crosses the line, we'll get that gap. Yes, we have it, 7.6 seconds in the lead. So Jaswin Jali has not only gone into and out of the pits and maintained the lead through the course of the pit stops, or at the end of the pit stop cycle, but he's managed to extend his lead from Saifur Arifin, who's managed to overtake Shami Aizan in pits there. There's quite a few big gaps at the head of the field, and it looks to me like it's going to be a very difficult race for any of these drivers to try and catch back up to the front runners. But Jaswin Jali, perhaps the JJ strategy does work. Perhaps not as flashy as round 4, but it's definitely worked out quite a bit. Shami Azri, a well-deserved attempt to keep the car at the front of the field for as long as possible, but now he's down in 15th position. Let's see if his strategy of fresher tyres and less fuel needed to finish the race, let's see if that will work out for him.
I think Michael's going to be running 2 stops, right? Michael along with the 2 other cars, I don't quite remember. The mid-pack guys, remember?
Theoretically, Michael, I believe.
He went on early at 18 minutes, I think.
But Michael came in at 20 minutes, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a weird strategy. If he's able to fuel save toward the second part of the race, he might be able to do it in 1 stop, but it looks to me like he might have to splash and dash. So that could be a very tricky position for Michael. It looks like he went into the pits early to try and get track position once everyone else started to pit. So he tried to do the undercut on half the field.
Saifur overtook Shami in the pits, I think.
Yeah. So Saifur managed to gain that position from Shami Aizan, but it looks like Lloyd also gained quite a few positions. He's now in the 7th position, and Afif Adlan manages to get up into 10th place. So he is basically in the middle of that URT train that he was chasing down. So if you remember earlier on, before the pit stops, Lloyd Lachlan was at the tail of the URT train. Now he's in the very middle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he deals with this situation right now. 2 URT cars behind him, 2 URT cars ahead of him. Meanwhile, it looks like Freddie Ang is beginning to close up on Shame Aizan. It looks like Freddie has got a lot of pace in this car. He's definitely improved by quite a bit over the course of the season. He's definitely starting to understand that Kia quite a bit more throughout the course of the championship, and it looks like at this point he does have quite a lot of pace in that car. So let's see if he's able to catch Shame Aizan. So 32 minutes have elapsed in the race, so that's a little over 10 minutes, 12 minutes, I do apologise, left in the race there. So it's definitely going to be a sprint to the finish line. A couple of the drivers, like Carol mentioned earlier, have pitted early, so let's see if they can make it to the end of the race, especially looking at Michael Hafiz, who, if he can make it to the end of the race, that's going to be vital information, not only for himself but for Ilham and for Saiful, his teammates at Todak Motorsports. So perhaps that's why they've put Michael on this rather strange strategy. They knew he was a little bit further behind, so they decided to try and gamble on pitting early and trying to last the distance. So let's see how that goes for him. But he is right behind his teammate Ilham Labi.
I think his engine sounds a bit getting weirder. But his fuel depends on how much fuel he puts in on his first pit.
Absolutely, if he is absolutely convinced that he, from where he pitted, he could not have done a one-stop strategy, he would have short fueled the car in order to spend the minimum amount of time in the pits to try. But that is the key with these warm-up races, is that is the time to try all of these weird and crazy strategies and see which one sticks and which one works for the race. Because even the strategies that don't work can teach you quite a bit about the car's performance throughout the course of the race. Now Chok Van Pang, he's right behind Lloyd Lachlan there. Lloyd's the Todak meet in a very impressive looking URT sandwich. 2 URT cars ahead of him, 2 URT cars behind him. And it looks like Chok Van Pang has quite a bit of pace in the car there. His last lap was almost to 129 and 130.093 seconds. So definitely quite a bit of pace in that car. It's freshly shod with Pirelli slicks. It's been fueled up with fuel, and he's going to be pushing as hard as he can to try and catch Lloyd Lachlan and put him in position down in the leaderboard.
Very steep curve.
Oh yeah. Considering the standard average Malaysian house, if it was built at the bottom of the corkscrew, the roof of the house wouldn't be at the top of the corkscrew. That's how steep it is. It's you'd need to find one of those fancy 3 or 4 story bungalows before
Is
be
it
able
an
to build it
overtake?
up.
Oh no. Yeah, Tamizi is his back marker.
Yep. Looks like Diguezan there had a little bit of trouble trying to get past Tomizi, but he's managed to do so. But that trouble might have just brought Diguezan into the clutches of this man, Lloyd Lachlan, right behind him. And he's very close behind him. It looks like this might be a bit of a challenge for him. It looks like Chok has gone off the road on the first hairpin. Let's have a look and see in this replay. And it looks like he's just outbraked himself. He's just gone a little bit too deep into the brakes, and again with the classic sand traps here at Laguna Seca, once you go off-road, you really do get pulled towards those barriers. But it looks like Diguezan Lay has been overtaken by Lloyd Lachlan. They were battling with each other. It looked like Diguezan Lay got balked a little bit by Tamizi, trying to lap Tamizi. So that's the trouble with back markers. They can slow you down even if they aren't doing exactly the right thing. and it looks like the gap between Tukwezan and Lloyd Lachlan shrank rather dramatically through the course of the start-finish straight, and it looks like Lloyd managed to get through at one of the faster corners of the track, which now means that Lloyd Lachlan is up into 6th place, which is going to be very good news for himself. A real morale boost for Lloyd going into the final round of the championship. But Tukwezan will be pushing as hard as he can to try and take that position back, that is for sure. And it looks like he might have a good run coming into the hairpin here. Let's see what's going to happen coming into the braking zone here. And it looks like Lloyd goes defensive. So this battle is not over yet, that is for sure. Tukwezan really trying to chase after Lloyd Lachlan quite hard. You can see Ezan's car is actually, he's really using the rear end, rotating the rear end quite dramatically going into the corners there. You can tell he is planting the front end of the car and sliding the rear end ever so slightly just to try and clear any understeer in the chassis. Meanwhile, Lloyd is driving in usual smooth but aggressive style. This is a real challenge for all the drivers involved. Freddie Ang is finally caught up to the back of Shami Aizan with a little bit of help from some back markers. So this is going to be a very interesting battle indeed. 37 minutes have passed in this 45-minute race, and it looks like the challenge here is to see who can lap the traffic better, who can take advantage of the traffic, and who can avoid being slowed down or disadvantaged by having to lap all this traffic up ahead there. Justin Junos is battling with another car up ahead. This might be bad news for Shami Aizan, it might be bad news for Freddie Ang, we're not too sure yet. And it looks like those two cars are really pushing quite hard indeed. Shami is 3rd position, Freddie Ang is in 4th, but they're in the middle of a group of cars in the mid-20s position-wise, and this might turn out to be a very difficult race indeed for all these drivers involved. Shami Aizan there in 3rd place, and it looks like he's managed to stretch an advantage a little bit comparison to Freddie Ang through the 2nd and 3rd sectors of the lap, but it looks like Freddie is able to really catch up with them through the latter half of the circuit. It looks like that was Jashri having to go on the gravel a little bit just to try and let the cars pass, and now it's going to be Shami's and Sharil Warfudin in 22nd position up ahead. Now, will he be able to have any effect on this battle? It's going to be very interesting indeed to see how this pans out. Freddie just losing a little bit of time there, it looks like. Perhaps Freddie was just pushing the car a little bit too hard at the start of the stint. His tyres might be starting to degrade just a little bit. Shami Aizan also not having quite the pace to try and catch up with his teammate. Still 7/10 behind his teammate, who is a lap down. So once these two drivers get up to Sharon Norafudin, it's going to have to try and give way to quicker cars behind them. But it is a process that seems to be taking quite a bit of time. But in the meantime, Freddie Ang, he does have a slight advantage now.
I think he got confused between Shami and Sharil.
Yeah. So Shami Aizan has managed to get past Sharon Norafudin, but it looks like Freddie Ang wasn't able to do so.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Sharil was a back marker there. I didn't
Yes.
realize that. Oh, I thought you were mispronouncing something.
No.
My bad.
They were both in the same car and have similar names, but Sharil was a lap behind, and Shami was the guy trying to get past.
Teammate,
Yeah.
Let's go back to Izan. Let's see how he's doing with Lloyd.
It looks like Tukwezan still in touch with Lloyd Lachlan. So this is going to be an interesting little battle. Of course, Lloyd is up to 6th place, which if this was a 4 points playing round, that would be very good points for Lloyd. I believe that's 20 points or 19 points.
20.
Somewhere in that region. 20.
One more interesting driver to see is Ilham.
He's up into 11th place. Now, he was briefly up into 4th during the course of the pit stops, but that was slightly artificial. But 18 places gained through 41 minutes of racing is very impressive indeed, and it looks like he might be able to get himself up into the top 10 positions with Chok Fan Pang right ahead of him. So let's see if Ilham Halabi is able to do anything going around the course of this lap. Ilham's best time through the course of the race, 129.984. His last lap, 131.7. So that's fairly quick in terms of race pace, especially with the tyres as worn as they are right now. So let's see if he's able to do anything with Chok Fan Pang up ahead. And Chok Fan Pang looks like he's dropped back a little bit from the URT train that formed during the course of the first stint. And it looks like the pace is taking a toll for some of the slower URT cars. And that has put Chok Fan Pang in a position where he's under a lot of pressure from Ilham Halabi.
And you're experiencing Ilham's strategy right now.
Yeah. So he's managed to gain quite a few positions through the course of this race, but right now Ilham is putting a lot of pressure on Chok Fan Pang. Ilham has a very special technique, a special strategy when it comes to battling with other drivers. He doesn't go for the overtake straight away. He likes to stay back perhaps for a lap or two and try and shadow the car up ahead. And first of all, the first thing that happens when you try and do that is that it can come across as a little bit intimidating for the car up ahead, Ilham Halabi following you. And it looks like Chok Fan Pang there just had a little bit of a mistake, and will this be a bit of a drag race up to the start finish straight? Chok Fan Pang had a bit of a better run up through the bend there, but Ilham Halabi is managing to catch up. Will he be able to make an overtaking maneuver work here? He decides not to do so, but it looks like his tactic has worked. All that pressure that he's put on Chok Fan Pang means that Chok made that mistake coming into the hairpin, and that has given Ilham Halabi another position. He is now up into 10th place, having gained 19 positions in the race. Spectacular stuff in Ilham. Perhaps not battling with Jaswanjali might not be ideal for Ilham Halabi, but this does sort of fire that warning shot to all of his championship rivals that he is quick and he is able to come back from...
Oh, Shaifu went into the pits.
Ooh,
This
so
is,
into the pits.
could be an error on calculation here. Oh my, that's...
Oh dear. And he's going to drop not one, not two, but
maybe
perhaps even
up to
3
11
places.
to 12 places here. Maybe more, maybe more. But they're all running very close.
So this is going to be an absolute strategic disaster for Saiful Arifin. He's running the Works Engineering livery right now, which he does during testing and the warm-up races, but he is a member of Todak Motorsports, just like Ilham Halabi. He will be in that black and white car.
Oh, he just went for a splash and dash.
Yeah, he managed to get out in 7th. He would have come out in 11th if he stayed in there any longer than he had to, but it looks like, yes, he has
Maybe he
made...
was just 1 to 2 liters short.
Perhaps. Considering this is the last minute of the race, in fact, the last half minute, that must be heartbreaking for Saiful Arifin. But it is better to come in and fuel up if you know you don't have enough fuel left for the end of the race. And that's going to be a very interesting question, because Laguna Seca, despite not having that high speed, not that many high-speed sections, it is very heavy on the fuel. You do burn a lot of fuel there, trying to accelerate up from these slower corners there. Freddie Ang really pushing hard to try and get past Sama Aizan there, and it looks like 45 minutes have passed, and Jaswanjali is going to go across the line and win the warm-up race for round 6 of the AIMC here at Laguna Seca. But this battle is still raging on. They're going to be pushing as hard as they can. Sama Aizan is in 2nd place. Freddie Ang almost in desperation throwing the car through the corner there in 3rd. Tiku Ezan Lay is now still putting a lot of pressure on Lloyd Lachlan. Let's see how that goes by. Shami Aizan managing to get 2nd, Freddie Ang in 3rd. Tiku Jan looks like he'll be able to come across the line in 4th place, but Lloyd Lachlan and Tiku Ezan, they're really pushing very hard indeed. Lloyd managing to lap that car, and it looks like that car of Sharon Orifudin, it looks like he was slowing down through fuel starvation, it looked like. Ilham Halabi finishes in 10th, and Chofan Pang in 11th. Faiz there, and Shami Azri really. Shami there taking to the inside of the final corner, just trying to catch the car up ahead, but Mohammed manages to go home in 12th position, Azri in 13th. Faiz Aslan, Nazmi Masli, a sort of a
teamwork.
Yeah.
Teamwork finish there.
it looks like a sort of a
stage,
staged
maybe.
a staged finish for those guys going across the line there. That'll make a nice picture for their Facebook page tomorrow. And Khalif is the last man across the line in 19th place. So wow, that was quite an interesting race indeed, and it looks like it's going to set up to be a very interesting event indeed. First time we see a non-Malaysian in the top 5 there, with Lloyd Lachlan in 5th. But Jazri Jali has won the race for Outhouse FCR Performance Team A. The first shots have been fired in the championship battle. It's going to be a titanic challenge between himself and Ilham Halabi. In second place, Sami Aizan looking faster and faster in that Rab Pro Drag esports machine. Car number 404 is in second. In third place, Freddie Ang for TBRT Black, really pushing very hard to try and get past Shami, but he wasn't able to do so. Tuku Jan Lei is in fourth place, a fairly quiet race for himself, but he manages to take it home in quite a high position. Lloyd Lachlan, as I managed, the first non-Malaysian up in the high-ranking positions, the first non-Malaysian or Singaporean that's been that far up since the warm-up race for the Merdeka Cup. And Lloyd Lachlan there in 5th place, representing Australia for Todak Motorsports Asia. 5th. Tuku Zanlei in 6th, couldn't quite get past Lloyd there. And Saiful Arifin unfortunately ran out of fuel, had to take that splash and dash for 7th. Ruben Wong is in 8th, followed by Afiq Fadlan, Ilham Halabi, Chok Fan Pang, Mohamed Mohamed, Shami Azri, Faiz Aslan, Nazmi Basri, Taufik Tahir, Azam Azni, and Michael Hafiz.
We just go through the second page.
There we go.
Okay. James Russell, I think he didn't finish the race. I think something.
I don't think he was able to finish the race. He did go straight on at the corkscrew, which would be a fairly heavy impact. And he did rejoin the race after repairs, but it looks like he wasn't able to do much about that. But he is very quick in these Kias, so perhaps keep an eye out on him for the next race. And keep an eye out for quite a few of these drivers, as the final round of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship is set to kick off tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting live. Our broadcast will start around 9:30. Qualifying of the race will start at 10. So do stay tuned for that. So before we sign off, all that remains for me to say is to thank our sponsors, Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our supporter for this season, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, who absolutely been very helpful in the course of policing the series. So special thanks to those guys as well. But from our director, Kara Alang, and from myself, Max Palmer, we will see you all in the next broadcast tomorrow, the final. Stay tuned and do make sure you're there. But for now, it's bye from us. Ta-ra.